Tonight, a man accused of killing his estranged wife appears in a Corner Brook court, and a bomb threat at YYT delays travelers. Those stories and
everything has gone up. Everything I look at. I don't know how people are managing with children.
Some St. John's homeowners are finding themselves drowning in extra water taxes. I'll tell you about that coming up on Here and Now.
A major cleanup is underway on the TCH from a Monday crash that spilled more than 20,000 liters of fuel.
A good solid foot of snow would really help us out.
You just have to roll with the weather as it comes.
And that weather right across the province is mild. Still, resorts and other businesses are bracing and ready for a blast of winter.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, Dean Penney, the St. Anthony man charged with the first-degree murder of his estranged wife, appeared in court in Corner Brook today. It was his third appearance after being arrested last month. Penney is in custody at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's and appeared by telephone. His lawyer, Rosellen Sullivan, is pushing for Penney to go to trial as soon as possible. He's set to appear in court again on January 23rd. Last month, Penney was charged with the first-degree murder of his estranged wife, Jennifer Hillier Penney, who disappeared in November of 2016. A bomb threat at St. John's International Airport this morning caused some turbulence for travelers. The terminal building was shut down for hours and flights were put on pause. Police say the threat was called in this morning around 7:30 and all flight activity was suspended. The RNC used bomb-sniffing dogs to sweep the airport and investigate the credibility of the threat. Normal operations resumed about 3 hours later when police gave the all-clear. This is the second time the terminal has been closed by police in just over a month. The airport shut down briefly in December due to a suspicious package, which was a false alarm. According to the airport authority, impact on travelers today was minimal.
We were quite lucky that the evacuation of the building occurred in one of the slower times for airport traffic here. Right now, I'm aware of that there was probably 2 flights that were impacted, and there was probably, between passengers, tenants, and airport authority employees, there might have been about 200 people that were evacuated.
Well, an update for you now on a story we brought you last night. The driver involved in a pedestrian hit and run in Grand Falls, Windsor this week has turned himself in to police. A woman was struck by an SUV while on a crosswalk Wednesday evening. Witnesses say the driver of that vehicle then sped off. That driver turned himself in yesterday at the RCMP detachment where he was arrested. The man has since been released and is scheduled to appear in court in March. And another hit and run to report in Grand Falls, Windsor. A 19-year-old man is facing criminal charges after a 2-vehicle collision yesterday afternoon. One vehicle left the scene but was identified in a nearby parking lot. That young driver was arrested. Police say his breath samples were more than 3 times the legal limit. Tax hikes are making it hard for a woman in St. John's to stay in her home where she's lived for 5 decades. Her property taxes are up and her water tax has doubled. And according to the city, the only way for her to avoid those hikes is to renovate. Here Now's Daryl Roberts has that story.
Sandra Nightingale has lived here for 50 years. At 78 years old, she's living on a fixed income and is already finding it hard to afford to stay in her St. John's home.
Well, I have a roof that's fairly old, and that's in the back of my mind. That will cost money. I use oil heat, and generally I get up in the mornings, turn on the oil for an hour, and then turn it off or turn it right down.
Nightingale has a second unit in her home, which she used to rent out, but now uses as storage. A simple declaration that the unit is vacant spared her from paying water tax on it. But then, last fall, the city told her that would change. Those owning a home with a second unit in St. John's will be charged an additional water tax. For Nightingale, that means paying a lot more every year.
It's difficult, you know. I mean, where do you just suddenly pull $700 out of the air?
St. John's City Councillor Ron Ellsworth says any water tax exemption should never have been in place, and applying the tax equally to all residents is a matter of fairness.
So really there was no water tax exemption. What happened back about 20 odd years ago, council that today decided to give some residents an exemption that was not permitted for units that were not being used. It was meant to help a handful of seniors who basically weren't using their units. And it's grown into almost 700 properties now within the city.
Now, homeowners have the option of deregistering their vacant unit, but depending on the home, that can be costly.
You need to have your unit converted back to a single unit. In order to convert back to a single unit, you need to have your range cable removed, and you need to have access between your primary unit and the secondary unit. What that means for everybody is a little bit different.
For Nightingale, though, that's out of the question.
Not a chance.
Why not?
Because it destroys the value of the house as far as I'm concerned.
Nightingale says that would cost her when she eventually sells the house. So for now, she'll fork over the extra money for the tax, bringing her yearly bill to more than $1,300. Ellsworth, meanwhile, says the city is sympathetic but isn't backing down on the decision. He says homeowners with questions can call 311. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, one winter pastime in Clarenville hinges on the weather. White Hills isn't as white as downhill skiers would like right now. The season hasn't taken off just yet, but as Here Now's Troy Turner tells us, those running the hill remain optimistic.
From the top of the hill, things look promising. It's cold, there's a thin layer of snow covering the ground, the equipment is tested and nearly ready to go. But it's still not enough.
You can see great snow behind me. Around this lower meadow area here, we still have a wee bit of work to do. There's more snow to be made. And on the top of the mountain, the last couple of weeks have been really windy. So the natural stuff that fell blew away, and now we're working to build that back in. So close, and we'll open the resort when it's safe to do so.
Mark Dixon is new to the Clarenville Hill. Originally from New Zealand, he's worked at resorts right across North America.
It was a day traveling through Newfoundland in May where I drove through Clarenville, saw some ribbons of white down a hillside and thought, gee, there's a ski area here. Didn't know that, and drove up the road, White Hills Resort. Met some of the people, kept on talking, and here we are a few months later.
In western parts of the country, ski hills can build snow in the fall and be ready to open for November. But Mother Nature plays more of a role in this province.
Here in Newfoundland, you're used to being a little more flexible, and you just have to roll with the weather as it comes.
There's been a lot of work done, and the hill has new equipment and gear. Now all that's needed is more snow. He's hoping to open later this month.
We're going to go through a warm spell for the next few days, but we do see some good snowmaking windows into next week and beyond as winter really starts to kick in.
The snowmaking will continue over the next few weeks, says Mark Dixon, hopefully building a strong enough base so that when Mother Nature kicks in, they'll have prime conditions for another great season. Troy Turner, CBC News, Clarenville.
Certainly mild out there today. Here in the east, anyway, we saw it felt very much like spring this afternoon in some cases, lots of sunshine, but we do have a couple of systems in around the area with a high pressure, ridge of high pressure to the west. That will be our weather maker, or lack of weather, I should say, on Saturday. But for now, we do have some flurries on the west coast happening at the moment. But if I zoom out even further, we've got an area of low pressure over Ontario. And that will be our weather maker, certainly, as we head into the Saturday night and into Sunday timeframe. And it's already prompting some warnings. We've got lots of warnings across Ontario, winter storm warnings, wind warnings, from what I can see. But as far as our neck of the woods, wreck house wind warning in effect yet again. This will be for, again, Saturday night into half of the first half of Sunday, I should say. And up across Labrador, this is where we're seeing some winter storm watches at the moment. The west and the north. We'll break it all down for you when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. A former Grand Chief of the Innu Nation says it's wrong that the province and the federal government haven't acknowledged the abuse endured at Labrador Day School. Gregory Rich says a class action filed in St. John's this week aims to change that. Here now's Mark Quinn has more.
The Canadian public need to know these things were happening in Labrador and in the Innu communities, both communities, and I think it's about time because in the past, Innu were excluded in the residential school settlements and also the day school settlements across Canada.
Gregory Rich is one of the people named in a statement of claim filed yesterday. Like these residential school students, he went to a government-run school in Labrador. Rich says the only difference is that he went home at night rather than sleeping in a school dormitory.
The abuse is very similar and the trauma is very similar, and the consequences of that abuse is the same all across Canada.
Rich says the harm students were subjected to has stayed with him.
You know, when I see my classmates being beaten up by a teacher, it really affects me. You know, it gives you questions. You know, you ask questions. Is this part of the school process that's happening here? And it makes you, it's a psychological abuse as well. If you witness that this is happening in the school, in the classroom, and I still see those abuse happening when I think about it.
The statement of claim says day schools have also harmed the Innu Nation deeply by isolating children from the influence of their homes, families, and traditions and cultures to assimilate them into the dominant culture. Rich says the provincial and federal governments must compensate victims for that, but he's not calling for an apology.
Individually, I cannot accept an apology because there's nothing in place for the victims that suffer this trauma at the schools and other departments as well, where it involves both levels of the government.
The Innu Nation's lawyers are asking for the case to be heard in St. John's. A judge hasn't given the class action a green light to proceed yet. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
The province says shifting some procedures and tests to a new facility will mean more space at two St. John's hospitals. Starting next year, there will be a new healthcare hub in the East End.
We're in a situation now where we do not have enough ambulatory clinic space as it exists. We have multiple services that are trying to expand, and we just don't have the room for them to do so. So this has been needed for a long time. And then with the redevelopment of the emergency department at the health sciences site, we're actually going to lose some of the ambulatory clinic space that we have.
Now, the center will be located in the former Costco location and will focus on tests or procedures that don't require an overnight hospital stay, things like outpatient physiotherapy or x-rays. A private company will provide the space, which will cost the province $4 million annually. The health minister says the new modern space will also be an attractive place for staff to work.
It's all located in one site. It makes it easier for patients. It makes it easier for healthcare professionals. And one of the things, quite frankly, in terms of recruitment and retention of our healthcare professionals, people want to be working not in the basement of St. Clair's for an ambulatory care clinic, but in a modern facility. Patients want to be going into a modern facility.
Well, about 1/3 of the fuel spilled on the TCH Monday has been cleaned up. No charges have been laid, but there's tens of thousands of liters left. The collision happened near Chapel Arm. Police say a double tanker was traveling up a hill in the westbound lane when a 56-seat bus owned by DRL Coach Lines attempted to pass. The two collided and 23,000 liters of fuel spilled onto the road. Service NL say about 7,000 liters have been recovered so far. The company that owns the tanker is responsible for that cleanup and has hired a consultant to determine the extent of the environmental damage. Well, the calendar may read January 12th, but in many parts of the province, it sure doesn't feel like it. A little earlier, you saw how White Hills Ski Resort is a little less than white. Well, it's a similar story on the West Coast. Here Now's Colleen Connors takes us there.
No mitts, no hat, my spring coat, and it's January in Deer Lake. This time last year, the Newfoundland and Labrador Snowmobile Federation says that their groomers were out on the trails getting ready for a somewhat busy season. It's not looking that way this year at all. This is the opposite of ideal riding conditions. Matthew Swain and his team want a foot of snow and consistently cold temps. But the snow is low everywhere, even in the Lewis Hills. Trail pass sales, he says, are down too, slightly.
Yeah, I think people are kind of realizing that our winters are getting shorter, so we try to make the best of what we do get. Obviously, if we can get another 8 weeks or so this year, hopefully, get a little bit later into March, something like that, we should have a good year again. Obviously, we'd like to see longer seasons, but the way the climate is going these days is just not what we're getting.
CBCNL's own expert agrees. We are in a strong El Nino year, with December being exceptionally warm in this province.
Typically what that means is we see a mild winter across Canada. Here in Atlantic Canada, a couple of months ago even, we were getting signals that we would see areas of low pressure move more of a northerly track. So that would mean that we would see more snow in Labrador and more warm mixing events across the island. That is typically what we have seen. Now, going forward, there are some indications, though, that we will see some Arctic blasts, which could bring some snow, and that looks like it should move in within the next couple of weeks or even within the next month. Certainly is a little bit later than normal.
Marble Mountain is banking on those Arctic blasts so it can blast the snow guns and cover the hill. Still, training pushed on for these ski instructors today, in the rain and +2 degrees. Too mild for the snowmaking machines.
Winter is going to show up, and we're confident that we're going to have a great season. So despite the mild temperatures at the moment, we're confident our snowmaking infrastructure is going to perform, and we're not far away.
Wells says the hill was open a record 76 days last year, and it could happen again. Season pass sales are down. People are buying bundles of lift tickets instead. There's no denying that Marble is feeling the effects of climate change. Wells says adjustments are needed to make it a 4-season resort.
Being able to shift gears, whatever's thrown at us. If we're a later season, then absolutely we'll make those adjustments. But we're not ready to throw in the towel by any means. And we're ready to shift if need be. If Mother Nature tells us, we're ready. We can do it.
Colleen Connors, CBC News, Marble Mountain.
Well, among resolution makers, today is known as Quitter's Day. And that's because the second Friday of the year is also the day most people throw in the towel on their goals for the year ahead. But our ever-optimistic Katie Breen has an update for us on someone who made a resolution years ago and is still holding strong.
This was Tony Bussey. That is, until the forest fires in Fort McMurray changed his life. When people were being evacuated almost 8 years ago, he needed 2 plane seats.
It was just a lot of how in the world did I let myself get to this? And, I just felt very ashamed. Part of me felt kind of selfish in a way, but it was a horrible feeling. Just kind of hopeless, really.
He's not exactly a New Year's resolutionist, but Bussey does know a thing or two about setting a goal and sticking with it.
And what's worked for me is baby steps. You take small little steps over a long amount of time and you will get results. It's not something that's going to happen a day or a week or even a month. It's a lot of baby steps done over years, and then you develop habits. And then as you develop habits, they become easier and easier to maintain.
He's lost more than 300 pounds since the fire, down from almost 600 pounds at his heaviest. Just over a year ago, Bussey underwent surgery to have the excess skin on his stomach removed, and he has a second skin surgery scheduled for April.
I would say you're going to have moments where you feel like you're failing, where you feel like you're not getting the results that you want, just don't give up.
It's not just weight. Bussy says any goal can be achieved going bit by bit. And once you start achieving something, he says, the rest just falls into place.
The satisfaction I find of meeting your goal, even trying to attain to it, whether that's financial, whether that's giving up alcohol, drugs, whether that's just improving just something in your day-to-day life, it makes everything else go easier.
Not every day is going to be a success. Bussy says the important thing is to not let a bad day derail you. Failure's part of the process. So if you've set a goal for the new year and have already abandoned it, don't let Quitter's Day get the best of you. Bussy says if you pick a goal and stick with it, it can snowball, and the sky's the limit.
It's always been a dream of mine to run a marathon.
Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
But it's like playing hockey, you know, you can go to a hockey game and you can bump a guy on the ramp or be bumped after the game. You can have a beer together.
Well, that, of course, is Jean Chrétien remembering the life and legacy of former NDP leader Ed Broadbent. We'll have more a little later on Here and Now.
Well, here's a sneak peek at the weekend forecast. Saturday definitely looking like the nicest day of the weekend as our next system moves in on Sunday. I'll get into the details coming up.
right, time for a look at the weather, and it was a beautiful day in St. John's actually today. The sun was out. It actually felt a little bit spring-like.
It did. That's pretty much the only word to describe it. Here in the east, anyway, I saw a couple of things on social media saying that the temperature was pretty chilly across most of Canada, but the warm spot, the warmest big city, was in fact here in St. John's, 4 degrees this afternoon. You see this cold air through the western portion of Canada, minus 35 in Fort Mac. If I zoom in a little bit here, you can see those numbers, even in Calgary, minus 31. That was your daytime high today. And you factor in the wind chill. The wind chills were into the minus 50. So definitely some cold air. That is not the case over here on the eastern portion of Canada. But we are looking at our daytime highs. 4 or 5 degrees today. In St. John's, Bonavista, you head towards central, even the west coast, those temperatures are well above zero. And even up into Labrador, 1 degree in Mary's Harbour today, 2 in Cartwright. The cold air is here. It's just in Lab City at about minus 10. But if we take a look at this cold blob of air and what's going to happen over the next couple of days, I know lots of people, we've been talking about the lack of snow and wanting that snow, but let's track that cold air. So as we get into Saturday, we're going to start to see some of it move, at least a portion of it move towards Labrador. So we will see some of that colder air move in. We're talking about temperatures likely into the minus 20s as daytime highs, overnight lows still dipping as well. Another warm up though as we get into next week, and then we'll start that cool down again. By the end of next week, it looks like a little bit more solidly cold across the island and up across Labrador as we head into that time frame. So that's certainly good news. Now tonight is going to be fairly chilly. We do have some cold air moving back in. We're going to say goodbye to those mild temperatures at least through the overnight period, down to about minus 5 in St. John's. Minus single digits right across the island, including southeastern portions of Labrador, but a very chilly night in Lab City at minus 27 tonight. Westerly winds will be gusting anywhere from 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, so you are looking at a wind chill into the minus 30s overnight tonight as well. Other than that, just the chance of some flurries on the west coast, coastal areas of Labrador as well as we head through the overnight tonight. And taking a look at the future tracker, we will likely even see a few clear patches in the sky as well, but it will be relatively quiet tonight. And then as we head into tomorrow, a quiet day as well. It actually looks fairly nice as we see that ridge of high pressure move in and dominate the weather picture. We'll likely see some onshore cloud cover though, and maybe the chance of a few flurries in the mix, but other than that, really nothing going on. We are watching the next system move in, or I am watching the next system move in, I should say, and that will move in by the time we get into Sunday night. That will bring some snow to portions of Lab West, and then across the island, that snow, maybe some ice pellets and even freezing rain may develop on the southwest coast and spread north as the night goes on and into the first half of Sunday. Now we could see some extended periods of freezing rain with this, so if you do have any travel plans on Sunday morning, definitely keep an eye on the forecast, but the temperatures are going to warm up as we get into the afternoon hours, except for the northern peninsula where all of this should fall as snow. So like I said, definitely keep an eye on the forecast. We do have those winter storm watches up across Labrador. Your temperatures for tomorrow, minus single digits, still a bit above where we should be sitting this time of year, but a beautiful day to enjoy it. That rain snow icon there in St. John's, that'll be later in the day. Most of the afternoon will be absolutely beautiful. As you head towards the west coast, that's the better chance, like I said, of some flurries. And then up across Labrador, you're generally looking at your temperatures back down to about minus 7, minus 8, but a little bit cooler as you head towards the west. Again, those winds picking up late day, about southeasterlies 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I come back.
It holds, a lot of parts, like this battery pack here, the stacks there. So we're super proud of this baby.
Well, it's a little cube with big potential, and soon it's headed to space. Meet the Memorial University team behind this invention that's just ahead. Well, the countdown is on for a team of Memorial University students who designed and built their own satellite. The Killick 1 Cube satellite is heading to space to monitor climate data from this province. But as Here and Now Zach Gowdy reports, the real mission is strengthening Canada's space industry.
Every university student works on projects and group assignments, but this assignment will soon be orbiting the Earth.
It's going to feel amazing, you know, to be able to have a piece of something you worked on floating around out in space. I feel like that's every kid's dream.
That dream is about to come true. A SpaceX rocket will blast off in a few weeks, heading to the International Space Station, carrying a CUBE satellite designed and built at Memorial University.
This is the engineering model for the CubeSat, so this is how big it is. The structure is made of aluminum. It's relatively small, as you can see, but it holds, a lot of parts, like this battery pack here, the stacks there. So we're super proud of this baby.
The countdown to launch day began way back in 2018. Students from across Canada were invited to compete for a big prize, a few cubic centimeters of valuable room on a rocket ship.
The Canadian Space Agency is offering you an out-of-this-world opportunity to design, build, launch, and operate your own satellite. It will be approximately this size.
CUBE satellites are small but mighty. A fraction of the size, cost, and complexity of traditional satellites, they've made it possible for all kinds of small players to get into the space game. Professors at Memorial, engineers at Secor, and a small army of engineering students came together to build the Killick 1, a CubeSat designed to monitor the ocean around Newfoundland and Labrador.
This Killick 1, the payload is special because it will use the satellite to receive the GPS signals reflect from the Earth for the sea ice, ocean wave, and other things for climate change as well.
But the real purpose of the CubeSat contest is here on Earth, here in Canada, where only a handful of universities have space engineering programs.
The opportunity was afforded primarily because this is a growing area, especially these size satellites, these small CubeSats are growing, and we need students, we need engineers, we need scientists who understand how to build these things.
Luckily, a person with that understanding recently landed in St. John's.
Hi, I'm Andre Punt. I am a space engineer living and working in Newfoundland. I saw actually an article on the CBC, and I saw Dez's name and Wayman's name, and I emailed them and said, hey, I'd like to help out. I saw a lot of eager young faces, to be honest. I was really excited, and it's great being able to provide insight into that world.
Now the Killick 1 is ready to leave this world for good. A total of 15 CubeSats from 15 Canadian universities are hitching rides on SpaceX rockets to the International Space Station.
And then an astronaut from the International Space Station will actually take the CubeSat and launch it. They'll put it in a robotic arm and it'll get launched out. So we'll get to watch that happen on video, and that'll be a really cool experience as well.
The Killick 1 will be in orbit for about a year before burning up in the atmosphere. It is way too small to see from Earth, but when the members of this team look up, they'll know it's there. And when they see the video feed of their satellite floating off into space, they're gonna cheer so loud the astronauts just might hear them.
Just like that. You see the people from the ground station who are cheering when their rocket gets launched? That's gonna be us sitting right here cheering when ours gets launched. We put a lot of work into it, so we're super excited that it ended up being successful.
Yes.
Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Oh, that is so interesting. Congratulations indeed. And we have another impressive young person to tell you about right now. A 7-year-old is hosting a fundraiser right now in Paradise, all to raise money for the war amps. Sully Ryan was skating at the Loop with his big sister last year. You may remember this story. He fell and he severed his pinky on another skater's blade. Well, Sully and his mom swung by our CBC radio studio today to speak with our Jeremy Eden.
He was just learning how to skate. We had one of those guards for him and all that, but he got really good really fast and was overly confident. So away the red guide or guard or whatever you call it went, and he went skating. And then Bria contacted me and said how crazy it was there. It was really busy and it was just a lot of horseplay and a lot of fast skaters. Like, it was just madness. So I said, well, maybe just hop off the ice. And as they were leaving, they were rushed by a group of teenagers that were skating very fast. They blew past Sully, knocked him down, and one of them skated over his hand and severed his finger.
As a mom, how do you feel when you get that call?
Honestly, my stomach is still on the floor. I remember getting the phone call, and when Bria called, she was just screaming. So I thought it's like the worst had happened.
Sully, you were only 5 years old at the time. What do you remember about what happened that day?
The only thing I remember was there were like 6 teenagers, and they was like kind of like that.
Like the
this
top
part was okay, but it was like leaning down like this.
Was that scary for you, bud?
Yeah, but good thing I didn't see it.
How does your family get involved with the war amps?
So it was just him wanting to raise money. He's a very compassionate boy, and
it was that ad on the TV.
Yes. So it was a commercial that we had to watch over and over and over again. Sully's recently been diagnosed with ASD through the Janeway. So when he becomes interested in something, he's extremely interested and passionate about it. And he loves Tim Hortons hockey cards. So it was like this perfect thing that came together.
Like, why did you want to do something nice for the war amps?
It's because my mom showed me like these pictures of kids, like, you know, when they transfer the babies into like grown-ups, they still like have no limbs and they have to get robotics, so I'm raising money for them.
And are you excited about tonight?
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Sully's hockey card fundraiser for the War Amps is taking place tonight at the Paradise Double Ice Complex. It's happening right now until 8 p.m. And they have a photo booth, they have games, snacks, and we're told there will even be a visit from the Newfoundland Growlers.
I'm Caroline Hillier, host and producer of Atlantic Voice for 2024. This week on the show, how the Newfoundland and Labrador accent is changing. Not dying, but changing. You can listen on Sunday mornings on your radio and anytime wherever you get your podcasts.
A longtime New Democratic Party leader Ed Broadbent has died at the age of 87. Broadbent was credited with moving the party further to the left and up in the polls. He was known to New Democrats as Honest Ed, Mr. Decent, or simply Ed. He led the NDP for 14 years through 4 elections, even returning to the House of Commons later in life. Jean Chrétien was celebrating his 90th birthday on the Hill yesterday when he got the news and had this to say about Broadbent's particular brand of politics.
In Parliament, he was always very civilized. He was never nasty. We had tough differences, but it's like playing hockey. You know, you can go to a hockey game, and you can bum a guy in the ramp or be bumped after the game. You can have a beer together. So that was politics. Is that, you know, we all elected to do our best. We might have disagreement, but everybody wants to do a job. Ideas vary. It's what is democracy. And it is very good that we can disagree on things, but be united for the goal of making a better country.
Well, back in February of 2004, our very own Rick Mercer spent the day in Ottawa with Ed Broadbent. He and the crew at the Mercer Report tagged along as the longtime NDPer sold hats on the street to raise money for homelessness. Just have a look.
Ed Broadbent.
A solid move in a socialist direction.
He's back.
He has deliberately misled the House.
And you won't believe what he's up to.
So this is what you're doing, you're standing in the street and selling hats for Raise the Roof, which is a homeless organization.
And it is indeed. Every year they do this to raise money for social housing.
That's ironic because there's some conservatives down the street throwing snowballs at the homeless people.
I've heard that.
Excuse me, would you like to buy a hat for the homeless?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Broadbent. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Are you going to vote for him?
I never discuss those matters.
She's so NDP, I can spot her. Right? You can tell from the shoes. Right. You were very popular.
Yes.
You were more popular than Brian Mulroney.
And even P.E. Trudeau at one time.
Right. What's the most seats you had?
44.
And you were the leader, 44.
Yes.
And you think you can top that this year?
Yes.
With Jack Layton as the leader?
Absolutely a possibility.
That's pretty strange that Jack Layton would call up a former leader and ask him to run, don't you think? People don't want the former leader around. Are you going to be looking over his shoulder?
No.
Are you going to be saying, when I was leader and the NDP was a party that mattered?
Tofu veggie pies, see?
This place is going to be crawling with NDPers. $10.
I bought the minister lunch today, so I don't know if I have any cash.
What minister? It's
Minister McGuire.
I don't recognize that name.
He's
that's
new.
the problem.
He's
They're all
new.
new
Well,
now.
that's all right. He'll be known.
What's he minister of?
COA, the Atlantic Canada.
Oh, I know what a COA is. Yeah, where's he from? What's his ride?
He's from Egmont and PEI.
Egmont and PEI. I would thought I would get $10 from a COA. You were also famous for being thrown out of the House twice. For calling Brian Mulroney a liar, which is a big no-no. I've done some research.
A journalist, how come you've done this research?
It wasn't much, it was a pamphlet. It was Google. Have you heard of Google? That came in since you've been gone.
All my students use it.
You missed the 90s. Do you know
Doing
fat
research?
is good now? Hip-hop.
Hip-hop.
When the kids say, hey, Ed, you're fat, that means you're cool. That's good.
If they say you're fat, that's a compliment.
Exactly. If they say you're stupid, that's not good. Are you against getting free rides on corporate jets?
Yes.
I would love to get a free ride on a corporate jet. Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Maybe if we phone Paul Martin, I mean, I know where it's right there.
Right.
Over there is Paul Martin's office.
Right.
We could go there and give him to phone one of his friends, and we'd go to the Caribbean for the weekend.
That'd be great.
You're awesome. I got $10 on me.
There
you go.
Thanks.
Raise the roof.
See, raise the roof, do it. See, that's a good sign.
It's a good sign?
If you're knocking on a door and someone's doing that,
you're sure.
It's a very good sign.
This is nice. I've never made snow angels on Parliament Hill.
Oh, every Canadian should do it at least once. I think it's time for a beer.
Yes, Mr. Broadbent, I too think it's time for a beer. Well, Ed, thanks for showing us around your riding, and good luck in the election.
Thanks, Rick. You're fat.
Cheers.
Well, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration says it will conduct a new audit of the Boeing 737 MAX 9 production line after a panel fell off an Alaska Airlines flight last week. The agency says it's exploring the use of an independent third party to oversee Boeing's inspections. The FAA says the results of the audit will determine if further audits are needed. Yesterday, the FAA announced it will be investigating Boeing's quality control standards. More than 170 MAX 9 aircraft were grounded in the U.S. Saturday under an emergency order, which was extended today. Well, weather warnings are in effect in every U.S. state today, including Alaska and Hawaii. In the lower 48, the troublemaker is Winter Storm Jerry. Heavy blizzards are already blanketing parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes states, and that's started affecting air travel. Ashley's back with your local forecast after the break. Well, it's Friday, so let's find out who's celebrating. Happy 58th anniversary to Myrtle and Clyde Genge of Anchor Point. Congratulations to Graham and Irene Williams of New Harbor, who are celebrating 53 years of marriage. Happy 55th anniversary to Harold and Dorothy Butler of Botwood. Anniversary greetings going out to Cecil and Frony Lush. They celebrated their 60th this past Monday. Happy 50th anniversary to Shirley and Dorman Scott of Grand Bank. Wishing Jean and Bryce Thompson of Point Leamington a happy 60th anniversary. Happy 66th anniversary to Tobe and Susie Abbott of Musgrave Harbor. Congratulations to Paul and Margaret Foster of Springdale on their 50th anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to Lou and Carol Stone of Upper Island Cove. Happy 62nd anniversary to Earl and Mary Oram of Gambo. Wishing Margaret and Jonas Galton of Paradise a happy 65th anniversary. Ted and Louise Ryan of Monroe are also marking 65 years of marriage. Happy 55th anniversary to Patsy and Jerry Hall of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips. Congratulations to Melvin and Lena Grandy in Marystown. They're celebrating their 71st anniversary. Now to some birthdays. Happy 92nd birthday to Marie Pennell from Trepassey, now in Witless Bay. Best wishes to Margaret Thorne from St. John's, who just turned 98. Birthday greetings going out to Sterling Freak from Appleton, who's celebrating his 92nd birthday. Wishing Cecilia Walsh, also known as TT, a happy 94th birthday. She's living in Corner Brook. Happy 95th birthday to Maud Strobridge of Corner Brook. Happy birthday to Gladys Hussey from Belle Island, who turns 95 tomorrow. Wishing Mildred Daw of Seldom, Fogo Island, a happy 95th birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Joan Barber of St. John's. She turns 97 tomorrow. And Lily Penny is celebrating her 96th birthday today. Happy birthday. And wishing Violet Vivian in Corner Brook a very happy 91st birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Robert Chalk of Charlottetown, Bonavista Bay, who turns 94 tomorrow. And best wishes to Evelyn War, who's celebrating her 91st birthday. Another fine crowd. Congratulations once again. So time to look ahead to the weekend forecast. Ashley, tomorrow is looking pretty decent, but Sunday, not so much.
Yeah, if you have any outdoor plans, definitely Saturday is the day to do it. But for Sunday, yeah, that's when our next weather maker moves in. In fact, it actually moves in Saturday night. Let's take a look at what's going on just to show you that. So the snow will start in Labrador in the evening hours, and then across the island, the winds will start to ramp up, especially in the Wreck House area, where yet again we will see those winds over 100 kilometers per hour. And really, some areas that are exposed to those southeasterly winds again, or enhanced southeasterlies, I should say, you may see those winds gusting over 100, 120 kilometers per hour as well for a short period of time. The area of low pressure will actually weaken as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. So we could also see some freezing rain at the onset of this as we head into the afternoon hours on Sunday, but it'll be fairly quick once those temperatures warm up above zero. This should end as showers, drizzle through the afternoon. For the northern peninsula, that is not the case. You will see some snow through the day. It doesn't look super significant, but with winds gusting upwards of 60 kilometers per hour, you will see some blowing snow through the day. Conditions won't be ideal for sure for traveling. And then we're going to continue to see that snow up across Labrador right through the evening hours on Sunday, and eventually that will end. Our temperatures, like I said, are heading up above zero again, 1 to 3 degrees, except for the northern peninsula where you will hover around the 0 degree mark. Similar forecast across Labrador, and you are looking at that roller coaster ride in temperatures for Lab City up to about -3 as your afternoon high on Sunday. Sunday evening, once that area once that front moves through, we're looking at another system or weak disturbance moving through on Monday. This could bring again some snow to portions of Labrador as well as the west coast. But again, it looks like the eastern half of the island will stay up above zero, which means we will likely see rain with this one into the afternoon and evening hours. Our temperatures 2 degrees for the most part. You head towards the west coast, a couple of degrees below that. Cooler air starting to move back in again for Lab City, so back down, and the rest of Labrador will hover around -4 or -5. Long range forecast showing that roller coaster here as well, back up again above 0 by Wednesday. We're looking at that daytime high around 5 degrees, and then for central Newfoundland, some flurries for Monday morning anyway. Looks nice for the rest of Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, your temperature will hover around 3 degrees. And then for western Newfoundland, generally gray, onshore flurries right through Tuesday, Wednesday, either showers or flurries through the day as well. And then for Labrador, you're looking at once that warm up on Sunday, temperatures will drop back to the teens or 12 degrees by the time we get into the middle of next week. And a nice stretch of weather there as well for those of you in Lab West with sunshine and temperatures in the minus teens. Speaking of nice nice skies. This is a great shot of the sunset in Come By Chance. So Brian shared this lovely shot with us. Love those colors. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, the best place to do that would be to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Thank you so much, Brian. I can't believe the temperature is so mild next week, but the difference between St. John's and Lab West on Wednesday in particular, -16 in Lab West and +5 forecast for St. John's. What a big difference.
Yep, it's what happens in the winter. We always see that January thaw. We typically see that January thaw, so this is no different.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us on this Friday evening. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Good